Two girls climb a 2,000-foot abandoned tower for fun, but minutes later, the ladder collapses, no signal. No food. No way down. One mistake means instant death, and what happens next will push human survival to its absolute limit. Luckily, her best friend had years of climbing experience, which saved her from falling. After adjusting her position, she carefully began climbing downward, one step at a time. Even with mental preparation, a height of nearly 3,000 meters was still an extreme challenge. But the powerful instinct to survive pushed her forward, and she finally reached the backpack. She stretched out her hand, trying to grab it. No matter how she swung her body, the bag was always just a few inches away. But that backpack was their only hope of survival. In the end, she made a crazy decision. She unbuckled the safety rope tied around her body. The only thing keeping her from falling was now gone. Even so, she still couldn't reach the bag. With no other choice, she kicked hard against the signal tower and began to swing. The motion grew wider and wider. Then she forced her waist forward, using momentum to launch herself onto a nearby metal platform. She slowly leaned her head out. The tower surface was completely bare, with no place to land. One small mistake, and she would have vanished into the abyss. After calming herself down, she opened the backpack and drank desperately. Above her, Bella could only watch helplessly. Once her strength returned, she began thinking about how to climb back up. She carefully stood against the tower and tried to grab the rope nearby, but it was always just out of reach. Then another bold idea hit her. She pulled out a selfie stick, tied the backpack to it, and tried to hook the rope using the stick. To get closer, she balanced herself on a thin metal pipe and stretched forward with all her strength. The bag missed the rope, and she nearly lost her life in the process. The backpack was heavy. She failed more than 10 times. Just as exhaustion was about to defeat her, she finally managed to hook it onto the rope. Once the swinging stopped, she jumped forward. Bella watched in pure terror. When her friend stabilized herself, Bella grabbed the safety rope and pulled with everything she had. The friend climbed up along the rope. Soon, she reached just below the top. If she could grab the ladder ahead, she would be safe, but disaster struck again. With one reach of her hand, Bella's heart rate spiked in an instant. Staring into the terrifying abyss below, her mind went blank. She wanted to go back down, but her friend kept urging her not to slow things down. With no choice left, Bella closed her eyes, steadied her breathing, and continued climbing. What they didn't know was that this abandoned tower had been rusting for years. The metal was fragile. Every step loosened the bolts holding the ladder. No matter how careful Bella was, hidden danger followed them upward. 3 hours later, they finally reached a small platform. But this wasn't the end. Above them was the tower's needle peak, their final destination. Looking at the ladder with no safety protection, Bella's hands began to shake. One mistake meant instant death. Under constant pressure from her friend, Bella grabbed the ladder and shook it to test stability. When nothing seemed wrong, she climbed up. But the moment her feet touched the ladder, fear flooded her mind. Falling from this height would turn even steel into dust. She kept taking deep breaths to stay focused. Then, just as Bella pushed herself to keep climbing, her friend above shook the ladder on purpose, trying to have fun. Bella screamed at her to stop joking around. Her friend laughed, saying Bella was too serious. She had no idea that this careless act would drag them toward disaster. What should have taken 1 minute took Bella 30 painful minutes. When she finally reached the top, exhausted and shaking, her friend tried to pull her up. Suddenly, the ladder shook again, nearly sending Bella down. There was no way back. The rope was held tightly above. With her friend's help, Bella barely made it onto the tower peak. Standing above the world, her fear finally turned into a strange sense of triumph. After taking photos, they prepared to climb down. That's when they realized the tiny 1 square meter platform made descending even harder. Bella stretched one foot out to catch the ladder while her friend held her arms to stabilize her. Their hands suddenly slipped apart. Bella barely landed on the ladder. She started climbing down, but disaster struck again. The rope suddenly pulled tight. Her friend grabbed the tower spike just in time, stopping Bella from falling thousands of meters. To pull her back up, the friend wrapped the rope around the tower tip and used all her strength. Bella climbed upward slowly. But the platform was too small. Her friend's foot slipped, Bella fell again, only at the last second did her friend jam her foot against the tower, desperately stopping the fall. Thanks to that close call, disaster was narrowly avoided. After learning from the mistake, her friend became much more careful while pulling Bella up. Bella also slowed her movements, climbing cautiously to avoid shaking the rope. Not long after, Bella finally grabbed onto the last remaining 1-meter section of the ladder. She held on tightly and, with her friend's help, managed to climb back onto the tower's peak once again. After facing death 3 times in a row, Bella's heart was still racing. Although their biggest problem wasn't solved yet, surviving again gave both of them a brief sense of relief. But reality quickly caught up with them. The ladder below was gone, there was now no way to climb back down. They tried using their phones to call for help, but at this extreme height, there was no signal at all. Without rescue, they would slowly starve on top of the tower. That's when Bella noticed something important: the supply backpack hadn't fallen to the ground. It was stuck on a metal ledge lower down the tower. If they could reach it, they could survive for a few more days, but without the ladder, it was impossible to reach. Then her friend came up with a risky idea. If there was no signal at the top, maybe lowering the phone closer to the ground would work. She typed an emergency message, tied the phone to the safety rope, and slowly lowered it down, even after releasing the entire rope. The message still wouldn't send. To lower it even farther, she climbed down the remaining ladder section and hung in midair, holding the rope with one hand and the ladder with the other. But even then, there was still no signal. Her strength was running out, so she was forced to climb back up. Running out of options, Bella suggested something extreme, throwing the phone all the way to the ground. As long as it wouldn't break, they stuffed the phone inside a shoe, added padding for protection, and dropped it from the tower. Hours passed, no rescue arrived. With no other choice, they turned their attention back to the backpack below. This time, her friend volunteered to climb down and retrieve it. She tied the rope to the tower and began descending. Suddenly, something went wrong. Bella froze in fear, unable to move. When she looked down, she saw her friend barely managing to grab the backpack. Her hands were injured and she couldn't climb back up on her own. Bella grabbed the rope and pulled with everything she had. After a painful struggle, she finally managed to pull her friend back to the top. Desperate for water, Bella immediately grabbed the bottle from the bag and started drinking, but as time passed, their supply slowly ran out. Then something terrifying happened. Bella suddenly realized the truth: her friend standing beside her wasn't real. The injuries on her face revealed what Bella's mind had been refusing to accept. Her friend had actually fallen earlier and never survived. Everything that happened afterward was Bella's hallucination, created by her brain to protect her from the trauma. Now fully aware of the truth, Bella was completely shattered. That night, a violent storm hit the desert. The tower shook violently in the wind and thunder. Bella clung to the pole, watching old videos of her father on her phone, slowly losing hope. When the sun rose the next morning, Bella sat motionless. A bird landed nearby. Driven by hunger and survival instinct, she captured it and used it as her only source of energy. After regaining some strength, she made one final plan. She climbed higher up the tower transmitter and took the remaining shoe from her friend's body. This time, she placed the phone inside it again, typed a final emergency message to her father, and secured the phone carefully. With tears in her eyes, she let the shoe fall. This time, the phone finally reached signal range. The rescue message was delivered. Not long after, a rescue team arrived at the tower. Against all odds, Bella was finally saved. The movie ends here. Thanks for your watching. Leave your comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out.